Michelle Duff, formerly known as Mike Duff throughout his career as a racer, like many riders of his day, started out with either a borrowed or a self-built motorcycle to race at local tracks. Mike soon was bitten by the racing bug and seeking more challenging circuits, which led him further afield to the European circuits. Like most riders of his day, there was little money and few or no sponsors. His skills as a rider were soon recognized by the manufacturers, and he was later signed by Yamaha as a factory rider. Okay, I'm here with Michelle and Duff. And Michelle, I'm really happy to be here today to chat with you. You and I go back a long ways in the history of motorcycling. Anyway, I bought some of my first racing machines off of you back in the 60s. You remember those days?
Yes, a long time ago.
A long time ago, anyway.
Yes.
You know, let's go back a little even before that. Let's go back to when you were first aspiring to be a GP rider in Europe. And that's where I actually first watched you racing, was at Brands Hatch.
Oh.
And there was you, Minter, Ivy, and of course Reed at the time, and you could pretty well throw a blanket over most of it. The racing was so hotly contested,
Yes,
and you were so
fun.
competitive.
Yes.
You know, and it was just fantastic racing. I'd never wanted to miss it. It was just such great racing.
Wasn't that the race where Mike Hellwood fell off?
Yes, actually
Yes,
it was.
okay. Yes, yes.
And you guys were going like the clappers, if I can
Yes.
say that on television. Going like the clappers.
It's not a swear word.
No.
Yeah, I remember that race fondly. It was sort of, I shouldn't have been where I was relative to my experience from the previous year.
Yeah.
Normally I would have been in the second half dozen riders.
Yeah.
But in this case, I guess I had just different frame of mind. Everything clicked. The bike was right. The weather was right. The course was right. And I found myself racing with the stars of Brands Hatch. England was the place to be to learn the basic rudiments of real racing. And then you take that information and that knowledge to the Grand Prix circuits in Europe. And you tone it down a little bit because the Grand Prix circuits were very dangerous.
Yeah.
Whereas the short circuits in England were fun. And you could extend yourself and run off the edge of the track and not worry about hitting anything like a lamppost or a brick wall.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you come back on and then you have another go at somebody else. It was very challenging, very much fun, a lot of fun.
And then, so let's now move on to 1967, the Canadian Grand Prix here.
Oh yes, this is
So-
50 years ago.
Yeah, 50 years ago. So you were on the track and you're on your 500, this bike right here, if I'm not mistaken,
That's
right?
correct. Yes, yes.
And who else was on there? There was Dave Lloyd on the track. He was riding a Manx, wasn't he? Or I'm trying to remember that. And I don't have the list with me.
I think so. I think he was.
Yeah,
Yes.
and then of course you're on the
Matchless.
on the mattress,
Yeah,
after
G50
mattress.
matchless. Yes.
So and it was wet that day.
It was wet. It wasn't really raining, but if you walk in the mist, you had little droplets
Yeah,
on your
so it was
face.
damp.
It was extremely damp, extremely slippery.
Yeah.
Much slipperier than if it had been a heavy rainstorm.
Yeah.
But I don't know why, but when the bike was sent over from England for me to ride here, it was fitted with Goodyear tires. And Goodyear tires were exceptionally good in the wet. And there was a number of top riders that tried to follow me through some of the corners, and they crashed because they had Dunlop tires. And the Dunlop tires weren't that good in the wet.
Yeah.
And so I attribute my performance that day to the Goodyear tires.
Oh,
Plus
fantastic.
the bike was exceptional as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you did well. What was your final position on the
I
weekend?
finished third.
Yeah.
I was the only rider on the same lap as the two leaders
Yeah.
of the race. And I was almost a full lap ahead of the rider who finished fourth behind
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the times back then, 134s, 135s, 36s. That's quick back then, even
Yes.
though it was a GP bike. That's, even by today's standard, that's fast times.
Yeah, yes,
For this
I agree.
track.
I agree.
Yeah, it was really fast.
Oh yes, I keep wondering the modern MotoGP bikes, what they would do around here.
Yeah.
With modern equipment, tires, suspension, and engine performance,
Yeah.
computerization.
Yeah.
They would go so fast, it would be incredible.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, what was it like on the track today?
Well, I'm 50 years older than I was when I was
Yeah.
here. I have an artificial hip which has been giving me some problems, which prevented me from bending over comfortably. I was out on 2 bikes today, and the first bike, which was this one here, I found it very uncomfortable. I couldn't reach the controls properly. And it was okay, I was doing all right, but I was out on a second bike, which was a little more comfortable, so I forgot about how uncomfortable I was on the big bike.
Oh, I see.
And just concentrated on riding.
Yeah.
And it says it's been 10 years since I've been around here, and there's a lot of changes, so it took a couple of laps to familiar.
Do you like the track the way they've changed it now?
Yes, yes, I do.
It's better. You got better visibility for the apexes and so on.
Say safer runoff and wider areas, and some repaving in places, because it was quite slippery at times here.
Yeah. Are you going out again this weekend?
No, that's it.
So you're just going to sit and sign books now and sign?
This will be my last hurrah.
The last hurrah.
Yeah.
Well, we don't like to say last hurrah, but...
Well, it had to come.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not 26 anymore.
No, I know. Anyway, terrific. Thanks,
Thank you very
Michelle.
much.